Great. Well, welcome to Forward. This is our Connect4 product review for 2022. We're delighted to talk to you more about what's been going on over the Northern Hemisphere summer months and talk a little bit more about what's coming up. Most importantly, about what's coming up in the world of Connect4. So, who are we? Myself, I'm sure many of you know who I am on this call, and as well as Rory. A lot of you are customers joining us, which is great to have you with us this morning or listening to the recording. My background is as an accountant. I trained at BDO in London, and then I did a few other things, and then ended up being a director at Fathom, which is management reporting, business analytics company, before finding my way into the world of client meetings. I'm joined by Rory, who leads up our design and marketing team. He delves into all things product design as well as marketing design, and he's previously a creative director. His background's all about agency work, so he's very familiar with the client space as well. So he'll be taking us through some product things a little bit later. So what we're going to do, we have to have an agenda. It would be blasphemy if we didn't have an agenda on our platform. So what we're going to look at for the first 10 minutes, we're going to look a little bit back at what's been going on at Connect4, what's changed with the product, what have we been doing over the summer months, and then we will, Rory will take us through a recap of our mission at Connect4, and then the most exciting part, we're going to look at the new stuff. What are we doing? We're looking at 3 areas specifically in the life of Connect4, and then we've got a number of questions that have come through prior to the webinar, and then any more questions we will take with Q&A. Just some housekeeping first. We're running this platform on this webinar on Hopin, as I've mentioned. If you do have any issues, do let us know in the chat. Otherwise, this is being recorded, and you'll be able to add any questions as you go along on the right-hand side, and that should all filter through there. Great. Welcome, Emilio, Johan. Great to have you with us. What's been going on in the life of Connect4? So in the last, let's start from the beginning. Let's start from scratch for those who are completely new to Connect4. We know there's many of you on this webinar. So Connect4 was founded in 2020 to solve the client meeting problem. We wanted to make meetings personal, productive, and professional. They are one of the most important parts of the client relationship, or the part where you actually meet with your client, or your team members hopefully do. And we really wanted to make that experience as good as it possibly could be. We thought it was the missing piece. And Rory will talk a little bit more about that later on. We got our first paying customer a few months later. We had 25 industry angel investors invest in the company, ranging from the CEO of Ignition and Carbon, Auto Entry and HubDoc. A number of industry veterans came around this idea to support us in our journey. And we were rewarded early on by being one of the top 5 accounting product innovations in 2021, which we were really proud of that achievement last year. Then not long after, we had 5,000 client meetings had been held on the platform. So the client meetings are constantly being held on Connect4. It's great to see them every day of the week, maybe not Sunday, but happening on our platform and leading from those meetings into actions. So we've continued to see the number of client meetings held on our platform increase. And then most recently, we've been working on a lot of product things. There's loads of feedback, absolutely tons of it. And Rory will talk a bit more about that, but tons of feedback we've got over the summer months. And then working with some really brilliant accounting firm owners who have helped to shape what we need to do next. And some of those areas have been based around integration with practice management software like Carbon. So we'll be talking about our stage 2 of release with Carbon, as well as things like Zapier integrations for all those automation junkies out there. I know we've probably got quite a few listening with our early adopter crowd listening in here. So that was really exciting for us. And then also our work with those who wanted to use third-party video on our platform, such as Zoom, MS Teams, as well as Google. So that's part of our journey that's been going on. There's been a lot happening. And we're going to cover a little bit more of that coming up. And some of the things, we've also been recognized by G2 as a high performer in both the meeting management category and the video conferencing category. Cool. That's enough of blowing our own trumpet there. What are some of the content stuff we've been doing though? We've been out and about working with partners, be it ACCA, ICAW, other practice management software like Accountancy Manager, Pixie Center, Carbon, to name a few. And we've been producing a lot of content around client meetings. How best can you do discovery calls, onboarding calls? How can you empower your team to deliver advisory meetings? And so there's been a lot of work we've done there, listening to some brilliant accounting firm owners along the way, and really learning from them how we can best support them through the tech point of view. So that's been really exciting for us to make sure we are completely basing all our tech enhancements based on feedback that you've provided. And so the final kind of element of this is of this kind of quick introduction is some of the feedback we've got and how that's empowering what we're doing going forward. So we've listened to our advisor council, so a small group of firms particularly. I know a number are probably listening. People like Olivia at Namillo, Johan at OnPoint, Chris at Acumis. We've been working with these firm owners very closely to shape what happens with Connect4 in this next phase. And that's some of the feedback here is more public in the App Store, which we also hugely value, but also working very closely with a few firms has allowed us to kind of lead into this next phase of our journey. But some of the things that have come through from these reviews have really been around the ability to structure. That word structure comes up time and time again. Structure the meeting, but then structure the meeting output. How can we best enable you to do those two things? Structure best meeting practice, and then structure the output from those meetings in the best way possible. So I'm going to hand over to Rory at this point, who's going to recap on our mission. Don't be fooled, we're different people. We have got the same hoodie on, but Rory doesn't have glasses, so easy way to identify us there. Over to you, Rory.
Amazing. Okay. Well, I just wanted to sort of dig into our mission a little bit. Whilst it hasn't necessarily changed from what we started out with, it's certainly evolved and it's strengthened over the past year. And a lot of that has come down from conversations with you guys and conversations with accountants on the ground. So I just wanted to kind of touch upon some of the things we really believe strongly in. So there's a quote here. This is something that somebody said to me at an event last year. They said, "My clients don't want to talk; they just want to pay less tax." And whilst that is a valid opinion and is certainly relevant for some accountants and some clients, it's not what we're hearing broadly from a lot of you guys. In fact, we're hearing the exact opposite. We kind of think this opinion, whilst it's valid for some people, it's becoming sort of increasingly erroneous across the industry. Clearly, there's been a lot of challenges over the past few years, whether that's the pandemic or Brexit or energy costs now and things like that. There are much bigger challenges within big business other than just simply paying tax, and clients are crying out for more complex advice. And to have somebody there to kind of guide them through some of those things. There was a Zero survey out early on in the year, and that suggested that 40% of clients are actively looking for new services. So we think there's a real demand for clients to speak with their accountants far more regularly. So why do we think meetings are essential? Again, I don't want to dwell too much on this because we're perhaps preaching to the choir a little bit. We know that a lot of the people on this call now be perhaps the more progressive side of things, but we believe that broadly meetings are still very much essential and becoming more and more essential for 4 key reasons. So the first of those is to connect, building a rapport with your clients. What we're hearing from you guys is that everything becomes a lot easier if you have that rapport. You can deliver a lot more value. You can even do small things if you need to, for example, get your client to do something. It's far easier if you have that rapport. You can go, come on, can you provide that report? Can you fill in those things you said you're going to do? If you have that connection, everything becomes a lot smoother. Second thing is bringing context. So numbers show a bit of the picture, but what we're hearing from you is that it doesn't show you everything. And and having those regular those conversations allows you to bring a bit of context to what's really happening in the business. There might be all sorts of personal issues with a business owner, whether there's a sickness or a breakdown of marriage or something like that. That can have a massive impact on a business, but it's not going to be reflected in the numbers. So having those conversations brings all that context. Third thing we put down there is reassurance. As I discussed a moment ago, clients are crying out for that friendly encouragement from somebody that knows the business inside out and can kind of guide you through some difficult things. And then the final thing is upselling, and you shouldn't be ashamed of that. I think there's a business opportunity there with those conversations. It's only by having those conversations that you're able to sort of spot areas where a client may need a little bit of help, where they might want some additional services, and that's good for your business, it's good for their business, it's good for everybody. So we think the meetings are absolutely essential. And there's quite a nice example here. I'm just going to put the video up. Hopefully that shall work.
What I can give you is putting in the agendas. Have you got life insurance? Is that in the company or is it in your own name? Should you be switching to a relevant life policy? We're having that question in every agenda with every client. Something we should have asked every single client but have probably forgotten. We've asked the best ones on some occasions. Having that in there means it's come up in every conversation, and it's meant over and over again we've spotted clients that haven't got their life cover in the right place and have been able to put it into the company, making all those tax savings, adding more value to the conversations we're having with them.
So there we go. That was Peter Jarman there. He's one of our good customers, and he's sort of giving a good example there of where he's been able to add certain things to his conversations that he's having with clients, and it's resulted in being able to offer them the services they need. The other thing we've kind of really taken away from a lot of our conversations recently, we did a lot of work over the summer actually with a group of accountants over in Australia. Had a lot of conversations with them about their meetings, and I remember one of the guys said to us, "Give me a full day of meetings over a full day of tax returns any day of the week." And I think that probably resonates with quite a few of you, and I think it's perhaps why some of you you're in the business. Some of you will be business owners too, and you like speaking to other business owners, and you like having those conversations. It's far more exciting for you than perhaps just being behind the desk the whole time. So we think they're fun as well as super important. On that, there is a little bit of a downside to those to those conversations, particularly if you are a business owner. I think business owners can become a little bit attached to their clients and vice versa, whereas perhaps you want to start to kind of bring other people in your firm into those relationships, so you can be focusing on other things. So keeping those conversations, but perhaps shifting them to other people, and that's kind of part of the challenges that we're trying to solve with Connect4 as well. So just very quickly, I just wanted to run into dive into some of the real sort of costs of poor meetings. So we kind of see it as a bit of a leaky bucket. I think if meetings are conducted poorly, and that can mean actions not being completed at the end of a meeting. It can be that sort of over-reliance on the practice owner, as I just mentioned. It could be going over old ground and sort of repeating yourself and those sorts of things. And it could be sort of just like the sort of admin, the general sort of things you need to do for meetings just taking too long, and particularly for highly skilled members of staff. I don't want to be spending all their time sort of doing all that, doing that admin, and the result of those things compounds to sort of bringing a bit of a lack of trust from your clients. There's a lot of wasted time, and just as a bit of an anecdote, again, a story that came about. A story from a person we were speaking to over in Australia about his practice, and he said that he lost an advisory client worth about $24,000, I think, in the year, a retainer client, really high value client. They were super happy with all the stuff, the year end stuff they were doing and those sorts of things, but lost the advisory side because whilst they had the best intentions at the beginning, some of the actions were kind of lost, and it lost a bit of momentum, and then the client just felt like they couldn't justify the spend anymore. So I think more so, the cost of poor meetings is is particularly important when it comes to those really high value clients. So they're constantly seeing the value that you're providing. So just to kind of reiterate our mission, and like I said, it hasn't really changed from day one, but it has really been strengthened by a lot of the conversations that we've had with you guys, and we're all about making every client meeting like really count, and by that we mean making sure they're valuable, demonstrating value to your client, but also sort of bringing value to your business as well, making sure they're actionable, and making sure they're efficient, and making sure that we can, the stuff gets done. And with that, I'm going to hand back over to Andrew, who's going to get into the stuff you're hopefully really excited about, and that's the new things we're adding into Connect4. So I'll hand over to Andrew now.
Brilliant. Thanks, Rory. That's a really good insight around why Connect4 exists. But a lot of you, if you're current customers, will have known a lot of that already. And like Rory said, would have been preaching to the choir. So what are we going to do about it at Connect4? And there's 3 areas we're going to cover. One is around ease of use. Second is around how we work with other systems, also known as interoperability. And then thirdly is how can we automate some of this stuff? How can we get best practice playbooks into our workflows and into our team's workflows? So let's start with ease of use. Now, I think there was a bit of an elephant in the room with Connect4 in our early days, because we had the best will in the world, but Connect4 was too difficult to use. There were too many clicks. It was not intuitive enough, and that became arduous for you and your teams to deliver client meetings, which is not what our intention was. So we've come up with 3 areas we think that can help aid this. One is, we'll go into more detail, but one is around the clients area. The second is around speed at which you can create a meeting. And then the third is around how many pods you can have in your plan. So firstly, the client area. So we've got a complete kind of philosophical shift. If you are new to Connect4, this is what you'll see. And if most current customers will also still see this view. And this is what we've called the pod first view. Now, if you're completely new to Connect4, you'll be wondering what a pod is. But if you've been around a while, pods will be very familiar to you now. But a pod is specific to a client. It's a very flexible space in which you can add people, and a collection of meetings are stored there. So that was a pod first view, very flexible meeting space for you to meet with clients or suppliers or other third parties. Whilst we think that works really well, and when we're not losing pods entirely, we felt that actually the feedback we were getting was that we need to be client first. And that was for 3 main reasons. The reasons really kind of were based around it being easier to search and navigate. So as well as us now being client first, you can easily search. There's got a search bar, so you can easily find the relevant client. And that works particularly well if you've imported your clients. At the moment from Carbon, that import works really well. There's more we need to do to tidy it up, but we're also going to replicate that across other import platforms from practice management software or from CSV. So now we've gone to this client first view. So we were this pod first, and now we're client first. If you are a current customer wondering how on earth is that transition going to work, we have a whole transition plan where you allocate pods to clients. We're working with our beta users at the moment on how we can make that as easy as possible. But that's the first philosophical shift. The other thing you can do is actually create multiple meetings. So as well as this sort of client first lead, you can now create multiple meetings in the future. That's a bit of feedback we've had several times around, well, I want to show where we're going with a client. I want to show the Q3, the Q4 review, but I also want to be able to have an ad hoc meeting in between. That's now totally possible. On this screen, you'll see actually a client view. You'll see the green, which are the past meetings, and you'll be able to go into those and have the history, but you'll also now be able to have those multiple future meetings listed up there. So that was the second reason. And then the third, why have we gone to this client first view, is so we can work better with practice management software. Practice management and CRM software works on a client structure, essentially. as you know. So how can we best link into that? We'll talk a little bit more about how we work with practice management software later, but we felt it was important for us to align with that client first model. So we align with your practice management software. So that's the first thing we did. The second thing we've done is around ease to use. So how can we make it quicker to create a meeting? How can we get it down to seconds or 3 clicks? And so we spent a lot of the summer working on flows on how we might be able to do this. So on this prior screen, you'll see there's this new meeting button in the top header next to the Connect4 logo. And you can now click that. And what that will do is open up a drawer from the right-hand side of the screen, and you'll be able to pick an agenda quickly. You'll be able to pick one of our expert agendas, which we'll talk about shortly. You'll be able to assign that to a client, and then you'll be able to create a meeting name. And that is all you can literally schedule a meeting from that. If you do want to actually schedule in the date and time, as you used to be able to do and add to the calendar, you click continue and you schedule the meeting as per usual. So you've got a really quick way you can create ad hoc meetings now, which we've had some really positive early feedback on how this works. So yeah, do have a play with that if that's new to you. And then the third area is around pricing. So obviously, if you've got your whole portfolio of clients in Connect4, you're going to have more pods. It goes kind of without saying. So we've tried to reflect our pricing mechanism to allow you to have more pods. So essentially, that will mean that now you can have a load more clients imported in, and you'll get that, all of your meetings happening through Connect4 easily is the dream, the aspiration. So our pricing will now reflect that, and we'll be making those changes going through the next month. So hopefully that will make it more viable to bring in your whole portfolio. I'm going to hand back over to Rory to see if he can pronounce interoperability.
Nice, thank you, Andrew. So yeah, I'm just going to sort of touch upon on this big topic of interoperability. So yeah, when we launched, a couple of years back now, we launched very much as this kind of meeting platform. But what we heard sort of immediately, and what we've kind of been hearing kind of all along, is that Connect4 has to work alongside an existing technology stack that you've got in your firm. Connect4 can't exist in a silo at all. And what does that mean for these modern firms, the sorts of people on the call right now? Well, those kind of fall into kind of 3 different categories, really. So the first of those is video software, which I'll touch upon in a moment. Then we've got your practice management software. I think like I said, all of you sort of progressive accountants out there are sort of big into your practice management software, and we've realized that that Connect4 has to kind of work really nicely, seamlessly with whatever system that you're using there. And then the final sort of category of software I want to talk about is just kind of productivity software in general. We see Connect4 as something that hopefully makes your working life more productive, but it needs to sit alongside some of your the other tools that you use there as well. So the first thing I want to dig into, kind of the biggest topic really, is this whole idea around video. And you can see on here on the left-hand side, some of you will be very familiar with this layout, and perhaps you've even used this layout already today with our nice inbuilt video. And we've had some fantastic feedback actually from our about our video. I think some of you guys love the fact it's just so easy. You just sort of come in, you go onto your web browser. You don't have to download anything. You don't have to ask your clients to download anything. You can kind of go straight into that video, which we think is great, and we're pleased a lot of people getting a lot out of that. Now, we've also, heard some other feedback too, from other people. And the first thing is, around client preference. What we're hearing from some of you guys is that it's all very well, you're wanting to use Connect4 video for your meetings, but clients, some of them can get a little bit set in their ways. Maybe if they're used to using Zoom, it seems a shame to have to try and force a change in behavior if they've got a preference that they feel works already. So, I think that's that there. And then the other thing is around kind of around features. We get asked a lot about, will we have virtual backgrounds and sorts of crazy things like that that you see on the likes of Zoom and Microsoft Teams. And the answer is, whilst we'd love to do that, and it may well happen in the future, we don't want to exert a load of energy sort of recreating those things that work really, really nicely on those platforms already, because we're really, really excited about the meeting side of things and all those kind of productivity elements. We're not necessarily focusing on those features. So yeah, we're not kind of going down that path. So what that's kind of led us to look at is, how can we work along the likes of Zoom and Google Meet and Microsoft Teams to make sure that our platform works really, really nicely alongside those things. If you don't want to use our video, you can can set it up against set it alongside a Zoom call, and it works really, really nicely. I should just iterate, just for sort of for people on the call, if you're worried about it, our video isn't going anywhere soon. It's still very much alive and kicking. You'll be able to access that just as usual. But over the summer, we've really sort of prioritized how we work alongside other platforms too. So the first thing is, some of you will have seen sort of in recent weeks and months that we've adjusted the interface a little bit to try and make it much easier for you to set up a meeting on the likes of Zoom and Teams. So it should be super easy now, particularly with this new this new creation of meetings that Andrew previewed for you a moment ago, but it should be super easy for you to just stick in a link to a meeting into your schedule, and then your client can kind of come straight into there. And if you use your personal meeting room that you get in the likes of Zoom and Teams, that actually gets saved in there, so you don't need to add it again for the next meeting with the client. It's kind of just there ready to go, so it should work really, really nicely. And then of course, once you've settled that up and then you go into the meeting, you get this nice big button that my head is sort of partially over on the screen there, but all your client needs to do with that is then click on that, and it launches your video software platform of choice. So we think this is a really positive step. We've done a lot in terms of updating our user interface. You can see a nice picture of Andrew there at the top. So some of you who will be familiar with the likes of Zoom and Teams and Meet offer this ability to have this sort of minimal view that kind of floats over the top of your interface, which I think works really, really nicely with Connect4. Obviously, there's lots of other options too. If you've got multiple screens, you could have one with your video and one with your notes, which I think a lot of people liked doing anyway, just to give you a bit more sort of real estate to be able to look at your notes and look at your agenda at the same time and run through actions and all those sorts of things. We've also done a lot of work in terms of developing the app so it's a bit more responsive, and it's a really nice responsive experience. So if you, and what I mean by that is if you drag your Chrome window or whatever browser you're using, if you sort of resize that, it should resize really nicely. So that you can sit it alongside a Teams panel or whatever it is you want to do there. So on that sort of topic of Microsoft Teams, I'm super excited today to announce that we've actually just launched a Microsoft Teams app. So that should be available on the sort of Teams App Store for those of you who are sort of familiar with that whole sort of Microsoft ecosystem. And this is, if I'm honest, this is a bit of an experiment for us. It's like super exciting. So at the moment, we've launched it with a really limited feature set. So what we really want to do with this is kind of test the waters and find out whether people are interested in this and whether they're using it and how they're using it, and whether it's something we're gonna continue to kind of build upon. But I say it's limited, but it's still really really powerful, we think, and it's free as well. This is for the in the first instance, it's kind of predominantly designed for people who are perhaps less familiar with the whole sort of Connect4 ethos and those sorts of things, and perhaps just want to get started with a few of the quick features. So you can see on the screen now. So we've got one of our expert agendas from Rowan over at Carbon. Andrew's going to be sort of talking about those expert agendas in a little bit, but yeah. So this new Connect4 app inside of Microsoft Teams allows you to scroll through a whole load of these expert agendas. You can create your own agendas there too as well, and just like you might be used to in Connect4, if you do use it, if you're a current user, you can also have shared agendas there too, and they'll actually show up across your whole Microsoft organization. So if you have team members on there, you can create some agendas and you can kind of stick them in there, and then you can run them alongside directly inside a Microsoft Teams meeting, which we think is super exciting. So at the moment, there's no built-in meeting notes or actions or any of those sorts of things. It's a free app at the moment, like I said, to kind of for people to kind of take a look at. Then they're not so versed in Connect4, but it's super exciting for us, and if this sort of turns out to be something that is working really well for people, then I think this could be somewhere where we continue to build out a full feature set, and who knows, perhaps in the future you might not even have to go into a Connect4 app. Perhaps it all just sits within the interface in Microsoft Teams, so you can run your client meetings really efficiently, all from one place. So taking us through to the next slide, I wanted to touch upon practice management very quickly. So lots of you guys will be users of some of these systems on there, whether it's XPM or Carbon or Pixie or Accountancy Manager, and we're not out to replace any of those things at all. We're here to kind of very much work alongside those systems. So what we're hearing from you, and we've had lots of conversations about these things with lots of you guys, and we're hearing that broadly you love your practice management system. It's your single source of truth. You can go in there and you can find everything you need about a client, but what we're hearing hearing time and time again really is that some of these systems can be a bit noisy. It kind of almost gives you too much information. You can get all sorts of things on there, but if you just want to dive into a meeting and go, okay, what did we talk about last time? What were our actions and those sorts of things, it can become quite hard to manage because there's quite a lot of things on there. So where we see ourselves kind of sitting alongside your management system as this like really, really clear place where you can just focus on on the meeting, and there's less distractions. I think it's worth remembering that these practice management systems are predominantly designed for internal use. They're fantastic on some of those things like the sort of sharing of emails and sharing of tasks and all those sorts of things. But it's built for the the internals of a firm, and Connect4 we see as as crossing over a little bit to the client side as well. So many of you will be aware that the client can come straight in and kind of view all the lots of things that you view as well, so they can kind of check on their actions. So we see it as being this very like clear place where your clients can get involved as well. So just kind of sort of touching upon that, sort of ideologically, we sort of see the full client records as very much still sitting within your practice management system. As Andrew touched upon before, with for example Carbon, you can import your entire portfolio and sync that across straight from your practice management system into Connect4. And then on the Connect4 side of things, we see us as being a place where you create your actions and you create your meeting notes, and you can pass that back through to your practice management system if you need to. So that was all sort of very sort of ideological, I suppose, but how does that work in practice? Well, some of you be aware that we've done a lot of work alongside Carbon, as well as some other people as well, but a lot of stuff alongside Carbon. And the integration that we set up with that system allows us to do a number of things. So the first thing, you can import your clients, as I mentioned just now. You can also import your team members. You can assign actions to team members, and here's where we get to some of the new things that we've just released in the past couple of weeks, actually. So now you can actually assign actions to specific work items in a client record in Carbon. So we were getting a lot of feedback from some of our users around how we work directly with Carbon, and we realized there was a bit of an issue there with actions perhaps getting lost in down into dos and things like that. So now you can pin them directly to a work item, and where we've imported your clients through Carbon, they're now synced across the sort of joined together the clients in the two separate systems. Another really nice feature that we've just kind of put out, your sort of meeting URL, that kind of the pod URL that we call it, now goes straight into your Carbon sort of details section. So that means you can kind of come into Carbon, you can look at your you can go straight into a client, and you've got your link that you can go straight into your Connect4 pod. So you don't have to do any sort of messing around there. It's hopefully nice and simple. So just to kind of finish up on this section around interoperability. We've done some other integrations with some other productivity tools. So some of you will be familiar with Zapier, and you'll be kind of users of that. For those who are not super familiar, Zapier is essentially an interface that allows you to connect with, well, they say up to, I think they've got over 5,000 applications. So what does that mean in practice? Well, we've built this integration with Zapier, and it means that you can do a lot of things, specifically when it comes down to your actions. So we've got a few examples on the screen here, but you could, for example, through Zapier, you could set it so that whenever you assign an action in Connect4, it comes through to a Slack channel. You could set that so it comes through into a Google Sheets or something like that. You can send it through to Notion. Some of you who use project management systems such as Asana, that could be super useful for you there as well. So again, syncing some of those actions across into other platforms. So what we think by doing this integration with Zapier is it just opens up a whole lot of opportunities with all the different sort of systems we use. We know that every single firm perhaps uses slightly different combinations of technology. So this kind of starts to allow us to kind of go into some of those apps as well. And it's not just these productivity apps. There's lots of more counting specific apps on there as well. I think most of the sort of household names on there as well. So we're super excited about this integration, and it's something we're going to be sort of continuing to evolve. And then finally for me, I just wanted to touch upon something we've done with Google Calendar. Some of you will be Google users, some of you more Microsoft focused, but with Google Calendar, we have a really nice Chrome extension where you can actually create a pod directly in your calendar. Create a meeting rather directly in your calendar and assign that to a pod, so it goes straight through. So just another thing to try and make that that whole process of meetings easier and allowing you to kind of work with Connect4 much more easily. So I'm just going to hand back to Andrew, and he's going to talk about some of the other things that we've been doing alongside.
Brilliant. Well done. And so that was great, looking back at some of the stuff we've been doing practically around the ideological shift of pod to client, and then how we work alongside other platforms. What about automation? What about best practice? So that's the third area we're going to briefly touch on now before going into questions. So there's two areas we focused on. One is called learning pods. Now, learning pods are essentially best practice video content and actions to allow you to do something quite specific, a specific task, normally involving Connect4. So it might be how to use Connect4 with Carbon. Maybe you don't really know how to get started with that. Well, go into the learning pod area, or tell a team member to go into the learning pod area and watch the video, which has very practical advice on how to do something. So there's others around 3 steps to shorter and more memorable client meetings, for example, or as Rory's touched on, how to use Connect4 alongside the Microsoft suite, for example, as well. So do have a look. Learning Pods is available to you and your teams. If you're a current user, or if you take out a new organization, you will see that. Moving through to expert agendas. Now, this is an area we've been working on for quite a while with a number of partners, and we're pretty excited. Well, I'm very excited by this actually, because I think what it allows us to do is bring in suggested best practice, either as a way to inform your organization's process towards types of meetings, or maybe it encourages you to use some of this content as a bit of a script for a way you run a certain specific type of meeting. So on screen, we have examples from Capitalize, Fathom, Accountancy Manager, and Carbon. It could be you want to use a Accountancy Manager template to run your discovery call. You can just import that template, and then that template can be edited and saved into your organization library and accessed by the team. So you can start creating these sort of best practice playbooks. The other flow is you do change that on a meeting by meeting basis. So you might want to use the kickoff meeting from Carbon, so an onboarding session, and you might want to edit that on a client by client basis. So there's a load of inspiration there. We've got partners ranging from Xero to Ignition to Capitalize to a lot of others that are working with us. We'd love to get your feedback on what else you'd like to see in this area. Are there certain types of meetings that you struggle with structure for? And we could also, at the moment, we've focused on software partners. We're very willing to work with accounting firm owners as well to create some of this content. So do watch this space. In terms of where do you find this? So now it will be live. If you're a current customer, this will be live already, and within either your new workflow of that meeting button at the top, or when you create a meeting, you'll be able to pick expert agenda and see different types of meeting agenda templates categorized into discovery calls, onboarding, advisory, ad hoc, and then internal meetings as well. So you can use all of those for those reasons. So yeah, let us know how you get on with that, and we would love to hear your feedback on that side of things too. So that leads us on nicely into the last sort of 15, well, we've got up to 15 minutes. We'll try and end a bit sooner if we're out of questions. But yeah, do send any questions you've got through on absolutely anything product related. We'd love to hear them into the question box, and I think Rory will be able to access them with any luck. So do send those through, and we're more than happy to go into products if there's specific questions, or similarly we can take them and follow up with you individually. But we do have some questions that came through previously. Rory, I don't know if you've got those open next to you, or do you want me to? Yeah,
let's dig into those. So just on the question stuff, yes, I think the Q&A should be open, so you can stick questions in there. Alternatively, you can stick it in the chat, whatever you want to do there. But we do have some questions that people asked us just yesterday actually. So I will ask Andrew some of these, and hopefully some of these are going to be pretty useful for you as well. So something that I was just saying was, do clients still log into Connect4 with all this kind of new workflow and different video and those sorts of things? So what are you saying to that, Andrew?
Yeah, so this is a question that we hear a lot, and the answer is yes, but they don't have to. So clients, you'll see we have lots of single sign-on methods, whether you're using Microsoft, Google, or Xero. A client can register very simply with those platforms. So if they want to and they're willing to, if they do that, they'll be able to see all their meeting history, actions, documents, all that stuff that you want a little bit of security around. They would register to still see that. So the answer is yes, they would register to do that. In terms of do they have to register, the answer to that is no. Your client can come in to a meeting and they will see the agenda only. So they will come in and they will see the agenda you have set for that meeting. So it was our thinking, I guess, on that longer term. It kind of leads on to whether the agenda is used for you as an advisor as a script or to structure the conversation. So there's two different ways that you could go, and we want to support both ways. We want to support you whether you want to use Connect4 purely for yourself, or whether you want it to be part of your client experience. So we're exploring both avenues to make sure you're best supported for both. So yeah, that's the way we answer that question, and it won't be the last time we hear that question, because it's a really important one. You know, do our clients need to engage with Connect4 to see the benefit? And the answer is they will get more benefit for sure, but we appreciate not all clients are going to do that. So that's the answer.
I think what we've heard from a lot of you guys is, whilst you love your clients broadly, sometimes it can be a bit painful, and kind of forcing that behavior change is quite challenging. But Connect4 is super valuable for the accountant, for you guys to come in and kind of keep track of those things. Again, like Andrew said, if it's even better if the client can come in and they can kind of check up on their actions. But we don't want to make the platform impossible to use if they don't log in or those sorts of things. We know we know how hard it is to get people to come into something and to kind of to shift their behaviour. So yeah, hopefully that kind of rounds that off a little bit. We do have another couple of questions in here. So we've got some users that really love our personal pod feature, which is great. Is it dead? Was it still there? What are you saying, Andrew?
Yeah, so it's alive and it's still there. The question is, will it still be alive in 6 months? At the moment, the jury is still out. So for those who don't know what Personal Pod is, it's an easy access native video stream. So you can come in and you can share your video link very easily. Some people have it on their email footer, for example. And it enables you to have a quick conversation with anyone very quickly without having to download anything. It's all web-based, and you can add an agenda in there and take actions for yourself. So that's what Personal Pod is. Why might it not live on? It can live on. It absolutely can. It just needs to fit into our new structure of clients and team huddles. And we may still, if the feedback is that people want to retain it in its current form or maybe a different form, it can be retained, because we're not getting rid of our native video connection. So the jury's out. So that's a bit of a cop-out answer for that one, I'm afraid. But it won't be going anywhere in the next few months for certain.
So we've got a question here about our expert agendas. Emilio says, hello, Emilio. Are you looking to work with accounting business owners to provide templates too? That could be a bit of a hint.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so what is the benefit for an accounting firm owner to do that? It raises your profile amongst accountants, and as well as potentially other users of the platform. We do have non-accounting firm users using the platform. So yes, we would like to work with you. Obviously, so Amelia, I presume this question's from you. Your quality of agendas would be amazing. We want to ensure that the quality and the content is relevant to our bulk users. So yes, absolutely, we'd love to work with you. I'm sure Rory will follow up on that one.
I think that's a yes. Yeah, definitely. Another question in there: have we considered a support ticket function within Connect4 native platform as opposed to the live chat, which I think is quite interesting, actually? Got anything to say on that, Andrew?
So I'm assuming the question is for our own support function or for the accounting firm?
Yeah, for our own. So I think what's perhaps being suggested there is perhaps what we're hearing is perhaps you'd like a way of just being able to submit ideas, I suppose, rather than going through the chat function, which I think could be a really nice idea. Hopefully a lot of you guys who work with us already are, understand that we're really receptive to those ideas, and we love having that stuff come in, and we certainly get lots of emails from some of you guys and things coming through the chat. But perhaps if there was a way of you having a sort of a formalized way of sort of submitting a ticket, I think that's quite a nice idea, actually, and perhaps something we'd not necessarily considered. So I think that's quite a
yeah, I mean, if you've got feedback, do share it, however, in whatever form you'd like, either via intercom in the bottom right, the bubble that I'm sure most users are familiar with, or email support@connect4.co.uk, or similarly, if I'm understanding the question correctly, we did used to have a public roadmap for transparency on a platform called Product Board. It became incredibly complex to manage, and it was very hard to keep up to date. And I've seen other software companies struggle with this. So our viewpoint has been to work with a small number of accounting firms very closely. Some we've been speaking to daily, and that's been amazing. So that's the angle we've gone. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, I think so. That's really good.
Rory, I've got one here that I'll ask you, because I know this is one that came through when we were in the summer working with Australian accounting firms. And you and I were on many of these calls, but I'll ask you this question. So should an agenda be visible to clients? You know, what is the purpose of the agenda? Is it a script or is it a client-facing agenda?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And I guess the bit, slightly cop-out answer is that we kind of see it as both. But I guess something that we've realised just over the past year, again, with those conversations, is that agendas can be a lot more of a sort of a script than they are necessarily an agenda. I think some of you really value having that agenda live, and we were speaking to somebody last week and they were sort of saying that they love having that agenda there because a client can come in and they sort of instantly know just that things have been sorted out. There's been some preparation, so it demonstrates the fact that kind of work has been done. And it's really nice way of demonstrating that. But equally, we kind of appreciate that it's different for other people, and some people use agendas purely as a script for them to have a bit of a tick list of things that they want to run through with their client. And also we're aware that there are sort of certain things that you don't even want to have on a public agenda. So that's where we're sort of focusing a bit of energy at the moment in terms of building out some of that functionality within the agenda, so that you can set sort of certain private things. You will see that hopefully you guys will get the chance to kind of dig into some of those expert agendas. We'll send out links and we'll talk about that in a minute. But you'll see that on some of those, from some of those providers, they are perhaps things that are more like script type stuff, the sort of things that you perhaps want to have a note for yourself but don't necessarily show to your client. And that's something that we think's going to be really exciting in the kind of near kind of short term, where we kind of start to build out that functionality, so that this agenda is actually more powerful than just this sort of simple kind of client facing kind of checklist. There's actually some other things in there that you can kind of start to put in that are just for yourself. And I think that's going to be really exciting for when it comes to training team members and things like that. If you want to stick in sort of certain things into an agenda that perhaps you don't want your client to see, but they're for somebody that's maybe new to the client or new to the business or whatever, you can kind of stick all those sorts of things in there into your agenda and kind of have those as private things. So that idea of kind of script versus agenda, we've been talking about a lot internally recently, and we kind of see that as quite an exciting sort of next step for Connect4 in the short term. So I think that's
I guess the one thing to add to that is you can use team notes as a sort of script already, and we have seen some firms do that really effectively. And I think Emilio's even just suggested this. He's suggesting having a team agenda area. Yeah, that's something we're looking at. So I don't think it has to be an either or agenda or script. One of the product solutions we've actually started evaluating for early next year is exactly that. Can we have parts of the agenda hidden, or can we have script element or checklist element alongside the public facing agenda? So yeah, Emilio, really appreciate your comments there. Rory, any other questions that are coming through?
We touched upon quickly sort of around chasing. So we've had a few people sort of talking about will we be sort of looking at sort of building any sort of chasing functionality within clients? I don't know if we want to touch upon that quickly. And
is that around actions?
Yes, sorry, around actions. Yes.
Yeah. This is a good question. I think this is one of the grey areas for those who have practice management software, or where there's the overlap potentially. And my initial answer to that is yes, we will be building chasing functionality for actions. By chasing, I mean emailing out of outstanding actions to the client, but potentially also team members. The one thing we're really conscious of is cluttering the inbox. So we don't want to do that. If if your inbox is anything like mine, it doesn't need 6 emails a day to remind me I've got three actions to do in 2 weeks' time. Like, I don't want that. So we have to be really sensitive around how we chase, and whether it would always be optional as well. So you could set it as to whether you want your client to be followed up with. But I can see it being really valuable if a client, being more practical, if a client hasn't provided supporting documentation to do an R&D claim, if they haven't signed a document to complete SEIS, then that might be that might be something viable that you want Connect4 to do. So we're looking into that. But I appreciate you may already have systems for that. A lot of feedback is that you don't. A lot of firms don't have client task follow-up options, so we might play a role within that. And hopefully, and I mean, we've had, I was looking this morning, there's 4,862 actions that have recently been created on Connect4. So it's a feature that's really heavily used. So we want to make sure that it's working the best way possible for you. So hopefully that answers that. Rory, are there any final questions, or are we coming to a close?
I think we're sort of I think we're coming to a close. We've got some really nice comments coming in here, which is super useful for us. But I think that we're sort of coming up to our time now. So in terms of next steps, this is all recorded. So if you did want to watch it back, we're going to send this out, and also for sort of people who've missed it or whatever. And we sort of feel like we probably, I certainly feel like we've kind of rushed through a lot of quite exciting things. I feel like it's done, gone through it very, very quickly. So we're going to send out an email with a load of more information about some of those cool new things that you can kind of start to check out. As always, then do get in touch with us. Send us emails. Send us ideas, all those sorts of things. But yeah, we'll be sending out some more information about this. About some of this new stuff very shortly. So.
Brilliant. Well, thanks everyone for joining, and you'll get the recording sent through shortly. And thank you so much for your support as we continue to improve Connect4. We've got a really exciting 6-month roadmap to go after, and we'll be rolling out this new beta to everyone over the next 3 to 6 months. So we look forward to seeing you on it. Otherwise, have a great afternoon, or if it's coming up to breakfast time, breakfast, wherever you are. Thanks for joining.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, guys. See you soon. Goodbye.